Hello, what's going on? My name is Phil Brunell, but more commonly known as DarksydePhil, or DSP for short on the internet, and welcome to my DarksydePhil channel here on YouTube. Now, the reason I'm making this video is I found, over the past several years actually, I've found a way to take my hobby of recording things and putting them on YouTube and actually turning it into a way that I can make a living. And this channel, DarksydePhil, was actually the original channel on YouTube where this all started. What I'd like to do is take a moment out to explain to everyone basically what I do, what I'm all about, the history of this channel, the fact that this channel is now an archive channel where there is no more new footage, which I will explain, and then I want to tell you about all my new stuff that I'll be doing in the future. So first of all, welcome. If this is the first time that you've stumbled upon this channel, I'm going to leave this video up as the main video on this channel pretty much from now on so that everyone kind of understands what's going on. So, a little bit about me. I live in Connecticut. I am 28 years old. Got about to hit 29 actually the first week of April 2011. And my entire life have been employed, had a job here or there. I actually previously was working at a job for 5 years in customer support, and yeah, as a hobby, back in 2008, I started recording myself as I played video games. And at first I kind of just did it as kind of like an oddity, almost like let's just see what the hell happens here. I had noticed on YouTube that a lot of people had been doing something like that, and they had been calling these things Let's Plays. But most of them, it was pretty much just like plain vanilla walkthroughs of games, meaning someone would play a game from start to finish, and basically that was it. You would just see the footage of the game from start to finish. I noticed that not a lot of people were doing things like live running commentary, not a lot of people were giving insight into what they were doing when they played these games, or no one was really giving their live, honest opinions on what they were doing when they were playing these games. And I believe it really started when I was playing the game Lost Odyssey, and I was really stuck on this particular boss, and I couldn't figure out how to beat it, and I was going nuts because the game was brand new when I was playing it, and I couldn't find a FAQ, or I couldn't find anything on the internet explaining how to beat this particular boss. So finally I went to YouTube, started searching, and here we are. I found someone who had beaten the game and actually played it from start to finish, and so I found the part of this guy's walkthrough where he had beaten this boss, and it was really difficult to follow because the guy, again, he wasn't doing talking or anything, explaining what was going on in the game. He wasn't expressing his opinion on the boss or saying, here's a strategy to use to beat the boss. It was just footage of him beating this boss. And after watching several of his videos repeatedly, I pretty much just found out the only way I was going to beat the boss was to go grind and level up my characters so that they'd be powerful enough to beat this boss. And I was a little disappointed because I really had wished that if I just watched the original video and watched the guy playing this game, that he would say, oh, just so you know, this boss is really tough, so I had to go grind in order to beat this boss, and here's the strategy that I used to beat him. It was nothing like that. It was just raw footage of the game, and it was really confusing to follow if you hadn't been watching all of the parts up to then. And so in the fall of 2008, I was bored, and I started recording different games and things that I was doing. And I believe one of the first games I ever recorded was Dead Space Part 1. I thought the game was scary as hell. It was a really neat game, so I actually recorded some of the parts of that game that I thought were some of the best. I also recorded from Star Wars The Force Unleashed Part 1 some of the worst moments of that game. In fact, the one that I uploaded was the one where the main character, Starkiller, is trying to control Star Destroyers, pulling them out of the sky with his force powers, and the game actually is bugged to the point where it's telling you to do things on the controller that are incorrect. And there were many complaints about that part of the game, but I was pretty much one of the first people to actually find out that this was a bug and complain about it and say, what the hell, who thought this part of the game was going to be funny or fun or anything? It was just really tedious and a pain in the ass. And what I found is that as I started recording my gameplay with my live running commentary, by the way, when I do record gameplay, I use a digital camera. This is the older camera I used to use, and I actually am now using my newer Sony camera, which is a much bigger lens, a lot higher quality. And I pretty much just use a tripod and a camera. I put it right here on my coffee table in front of my TV, and I record, and I talk as I'm playing the game live. And I think this has a benefit, and it makes my footage unique from what other people do on YouTube for many reasons. And number one is because live running commentary. What you're hearing from me is literally shooting from the hip. It's like improv. And so when I'm playing these games, not only am I giving you insight, am I giving you my opinion on the game, basically a live running review, but I also try to crack jokes. I try to make it entertaining. And a lot of people have said that I actually can make a boring game entertaining just with my live commentary. Number two, having the camera next to you, it sounds like I'm in the room with you. You know, I've seen people who do Let's Plays and commentaries, but they do direct capture footage and then they dub in, you know, their live commentary, and it doesn't sound real. It sounds like it was made in a studio. It sounds like it's digital. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like you're just kind of sitting there hanging out with someone playing the game and enjoying it. I think that really doing the kind of photography that I do, you know, doing videography of recording the screen direct for the camera with me sitting right there, right next to you, it feels a lot more personal than what a lot of other people have done. And so that's how I do it. And in 2008, I found that in the fall of 2008, it really picked up. I played games like Fallout 3, Fable 2, and as I played these games, a lot of people commented, and really the views started building on my DarksydePhil channel, and people said, we actually love what you're doing. This is really interesting. And so in 2009, again, this was just a hobby. I had a full-time job, and this was just something I did on the side. But I actually branched out a little bit with the release of Street Fighter 4. Now, actually, I am I guess you could say a former pro Street Fighter player, even though I am still a pro in certain games. One of them in particular, my best game I'm at is Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I grew up in arcades, and that's the game that I was always, I loved that original Street Fighter 2 style of gameplay that really laid the groundwork for all future competitive fighting games. And so when Street Fighter 4 came out, although I didn't dedicate enough time to really become a tournament competitor, I recorded hundreds of my online matches of this game, my insight into different characters, tutorials into the characters I felt I was doing the best with, and the DarksydePhil channel on YouTube really took off as a result of this. A lot of people, number one, a lot of people loved the footage because they learned a lot from it. A lot of people liked the footage because they thought it was entertaining. And a lot of people hate the footage, but they still watched it anyway. They just found my personality fascinating, I guess. You know, when I'm playing online, I would joke a lot. Oh, this is bullshit, this guy sucks, and I'm great, and stuff like that. And it was all meant in good fun, and it was jest, and it was joking. And some people took it like that and enjoyed it, and some people took it seriously, but they still watched the footage. So it is what it is. So I continued to do this, recording my gameplay of different games, not only fighting games, but role-playing games, adventure games, action games, and I did this for several years, to the point where in 2010 my channel actually ended up being in the top 30 most viewed comedians of all time on YouTube, and actually had over 100 million total channel views, video views, and also a really high number of overall channel views. At this point I started getting noticed by different companies such as Machinima and other people contacting me, and at that point I really wasn't too interested in doing anything with it. I wasn't really sure, you know, that it would ever translate into anything serious for me or any kind of a monetary gain for me. I didn't really understand how that was going to transpire, so I kept doing what I was doing as a hobby. And I eventually branched out. I started doing game reviews called The Hateful Truth, and I started traveling, going to tournaments, and I would have that kind of footage up on YouTube. Eventually I did create a secondary channel on YouTube called The King of Hate HD, which was to serve as like a vlog channel. If I wanted to give updates on what was going on, if I wanted to go on a trip, for example, I would put that footage over there. That channel eventually did become a YouTube partner channel, and so I was making a very small amount of revenue based off of the ads that were on that channel provided by Google. Well, all this changed in April of 2010 when my DarksydePhil channel here on YouTube was shut down in error by YouTube for a false copyright strike. Basically what happened was there were people who didn't like me for whatever reason. I don't understand why, because it wasn't like I was making any significant amount of money off of what I was doing or anything like that. But there are people out there who just hate for the sake of hating and just really love to make people's lives miserable. And they submitted false copyright claims. They were impersonating game developers and game publishing companies and contacted YouTube and said that, you know, Phil is recording video games and we want this cease and desist. You know, this is, you know, we want, on copyright grounds, we want this guy shut down. So YouTube did temporarily shut down my channel in April of 2010. Now, it was finally determined by my fans, so thank God I have such a good dedicated fan base, that no company had actually legitimately put a copyright strike against me. It was all falsified. It was eventually cleared up, and so my DarksydePhil channel was restored. However, during this time period, I was worried because I'd been doing this as a hobby for roughly 2 years, and I had over 7,000 videos here on this DarksydePhil channel, and I was afraid of losing all of that footage. And I said, you know what? At this point, it might be wiser to start over and make new channels on YouTube for the stuff that I want to do that are more streamlined to what people are looking for. And let me explain what I mean by that. The DarksydePhil channel had always housed everything that I was doing gameplay-wise on YouTube. So role-playing games, fighting games, action games, everything was on DarksydePhil. The problem is that I'm one of the more active and productive people on YouTube, meaning I put out a shitload of videos all the time. And when I'm playing a new video game, it's very common that I would produce anywhere from 15 to 30 new videos in one day. And so people who had subscribed to my DarksydePhil channel started complaining, saying, listen Phil, we love what you're doing, we love your videos, the problem is YouTube's functionality sucks. And every time that you put out 30 videos, YouTube floods our subscription box with 30 of your videos and we can't see anyone else's stuff. So I follow you, I like everything you do, but unfortunately I'm going to unsubscribe to you so that way my box doesn't get flooded every time you make new videos. However, I'll still keep my eyes open and watch for your new videos. And this is the case with several thousand people who have contacted me, that YouTube just really needs to fix their functionality. In all the years I've been doing this on YouTube now, over 3 years, they still haven't fixed it.